Have you ever longed for quiet, only to feel uneasy when you finally find it? In a world that never seems to pause, what does it really mean to be alone, and why does that word carry so much weight? Maybe you've craved a moment away from the noise, but the second you step into stillness, a voice inside whispers, asterisk, shouldn't I be with someone? Shouldn't I be doing more? Asterisk, think about the last time you were truly alone, with nothing but your thoughts and the rhythm of your own breath. Was it peaceful, or did it leave you restless? For many of us, solitude is a double-edged sword. It calls to us when life feels overwhelming, but the moment we answer, it can seem like we've stepped onto uncertain ground. We live in an age of endless connection messages, notifications, social feeds, invitations that never stop. We're told that being busy means being valuable, and that those who enjoy solitude must be lacking something essential. Asterisk, why are you by yourself? People ask, as if aloneness is an illness to be cured. Even in moments of physical solitude, we often reach for our phones, desperate to fill the space with other people's voices, images, opinions. But is solitude really the same as loneliness? Or is there another way to see it, a path to self-knowledge, peace, even joy, that can only be found when we are alone? There's a quiet truth hidden in the margins of our culture. Solitude isn't a sentence. It's a sanctuary. If you've ever felt guilty for needing space, or anxious when the world goes silent, know that you're not alone in this paradox. The discomfort you feel isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're stepping out of the crowd, away from the background noise that drowns out your inner voice. In fact, some of the greatest minds in history have chosen solitude not out of sadness, but as a deliberate act of courage and growth. Tonight, imagine yourself sitting by a window, city lights fading, the hum of the world quieting just beyond. The glass. There is no one to impress. There are no roles to play. Just you, your breath, your thoughts. What happens when you lean into that silence instead of running from it? This is the story for those who have ever wondered if there's more to being alone than just emptiness. It's for those who want to discover the difference between solitude and loneliness, and to walk the path the philosophers walked, the path that leads inward, toward a peace that can't be shaken by the presence or absence of anyone else. If you're ready, let's begin this journey, not away from connection, but into the heart of your own inner world with the truest kind of peace waits to be found. To truly understand why solitude has been so misunderstood, we need to journey through the wisdom of the world's great thinkers. From the earliest philosophers to the poets and sages of every age, solitude has been celebrated not as punishment, but as a path to self-discovery and inner richness. Yet for most of us, the very idea of being alone stirs up old fears of being unwanted, of missing out, of not belonging. Why do these fears run so deep? At our core, humans are social creatures. Evolution taught us that safety was found in numbers, and so the shadow of loneliness lingers. But is solitude really a sign that something is missing? Or could it be a source of something extraordinary? The Stoics, like Seneca, saw solitude as a training ground for the mind and spirit. If you are lonely when you're alone, he wrote, you are in bad company. He challenged us to cultivate a friendship with ourselves, to learn to sit with our own thoughts without judgment or escape. Centuries later, Henry David Thoreau left the noise of society behind to live simply in the woods. In his solitude at Walden Pond, he found not emptiness, but expansion, a freedom to hear his own thoughts, to connect deeply with nature, and to understand what truly mattered. Thoreau famously wrote, I never found a companion that was so companionable as solitude. To him, solitude was not the absence of life, but the fullness of being alive. Nietzsche, too, recognized the power of standing apart. He warned of the crowd, urging us to resist the pull of conformity. For Nietzsche, The journey inward, the willingness to be alone with oneself, was the only path to becoming who we truly are. He who cannot endure solitude, Nietzsche claimed, cannot be free. But perhaps the greatest confusion comes from society itself. We're taught to equate being alone with being incomplete, as if selfhood requires constant affirmation from others. Advertisements sell us the dream of togetherness, while popular culture warns us against solitude as if it's a threat. Yet, the philosophers knew better. They understood that only in solitude can we meet ourselves honestly, ask the hard questions, and discover the quiet strength that the world so often drowns out. May Sarton, a modern poet and thinker, drew a sharp distinction. Loneliness is the poverty of self. Solitude is the richness of self. Loneliness is hunger. Solitude is nourishment. Loneliness is waiting for someone to fill a gap. Solitude is discovering you are whole, all along not. So the root cause isn't that solitude is lacking, but that our culture hasn't taught us how to enter it with openness and curiosity. It takes courage to step away from the noise, to risk meeting the self beneath the surface. But those who walk this path know the truth. Solitude is not the enemy of connection. It's the ground from which the deepest connections grow. Look around, and you'll see a world built to avoid solitude at any cost. There are constant notifications, crowded calendars, and a relentless push to stay connected. The message is everywhere. Be available, be social, be seen. If you're alone too much, people start to worry, or worse, they start to judge. Asterisk, are you okay? Asterisk, why don't you come out more? Asterisk, is something wrong? The underlying belief is clear. Solitude is a problem, and busy is better. Technology only amplifies this. With a swipe or a scroll, we can escape any moment of silence, filling every pause with someone else's words, pictures, or opinions. The average person checks their phone hundreds of times a day, reaching for that instant hit of validation or distraction. Even in public spaces, parks, cafes, trains, few people simply sit in their own company. Headphones in, screens up, the world becomes a constant, curated feed. But what's the cost of this perpetual avoidance of solitude? For many, it's a creeping anxiety or a sense of disconnection that can't be fixed by another round of small talk. Our minds grow restless. Our hearts grow numb. We lose the ability to listen inwardly, to reflect, to truly know what we want or need. The noise drowns out the subtle voice of intuition, the gentle guidance of our inner life. Society doesn't just discourage solitude, it pathologizes it. People who choose time alone are labeled as antisocial, shy, or even selfish. Children are urged to make more friends. Adults are expected to always be networking, always in touch. If someone prefers a quiet evening with a book or a solitary walk in the park, their choices are met with suspicion. Don't you want to join us? Aren't you bored? World is quick to fill your calendar, but slow to respect your need for space. This collective fear of solitude creates a strange paradox. We are constantly connected, yet more alone than ever. The more we avoid our own company, the less comfortable we become with ourselves. The less comfortable we are with ourselves, the more desperately we chase connection, even if it's shallow, even if it leaves us emptier than before. But some quietly resist. You'll find them in the quiet corners of libraries, walking city streets at dawn, or sitting beneath a tree in the park. They have discovered, perhaps through necessity or by accident, that solitude is not the enemy. It is a mirror, sometimes uncomfortable, but always honest. It's where they untangle their thoughts, recharge their energy, and remember who they are without anyone else's expectations. To embrace solitude in today's world is a radical act. It means turning down the volume on everyone else's voices long enough to hear your own. It means trusting that you are enough, even without an audience. And while it may invite misunderstanding or even criticism, it also opens the door to the kind of peace that no amount of external validation can buy. Stepping into solitude is rarely easy, especially at first. It can feel like standing on a new shore, exciting, but also daunting. When the distractions fall away, you're left with yourself, your thoughts, your memories, your questions, your fears. Many people, on their first real taste of solitude, experience a wave of discomfort. Old regrets rise up. Unfinished dreams tap quietly at the mind's door. Without the background hum of social life, you may hear doubts and insecurities you'd long buried beneath busyness. This is where many turn back, convincing themselves that solitude is simply loneliness by another name. But if you stay, if you remain with your own company through the awkward silences and restless moments, something begins to shift. The noise inside your mind settles, like silt falling to the bottom of a pond. In the clear stillness that follows, you might discover something surprising. An inner voice that is quieter, wiser, and more honest than the opinions of the crowd. Yet the journey to this kind of peace has its price. You might find your relationships changing. Friends who once filled your days may grow distant, puzzled by your need for space. Some people might even take your solitude personally, believing it's a rejection of them rather than a return to yourself. You may miss certain invitations, or realize that some connections were built more on convenience than on true understanding. Internally, you'll have to confront your own stories about what it means to be alone. Old beliefs whisper, asterisk, you're missing out. You're not enough. On your own. You're falling behind. Asterisk, social conditioning is strong. It takes courage to answer back. Asterisk, I'm not lacking. I am learning to be at home with myself. Asterisk, the cost of awakening to the beauty of solitude is also the willingness to face what you've ignored. Sometimes you'll sit with uncomfortable feelings, grief, disappointment, longing for connection. But instead of running, you'll learn to be present with them, letting them move through you like weather rather than storms to be avoided at all costs. In time, you'll discover that solitude can hold both the ache of absence and the joy of self-acceptance. And this acceptance changes everything. What once felt empty now feels spacious. What once felt like exile now becomes sanctuary. You begin to notice the little things, the quiet pleasure of your morning coffee, the comfort of your favorite song, the way sunlight dances across the floor. You realize that being alone does not mean being abandoned. It means being present to your own life in a way that's impossible when you're constantly surrounded by others. The world may not always understand your need for solitude, and you may still feel misunderstood at times. But as you keep walking this path, the fear of being alone is slowly replaced by the freedom of belonging to yourself. That is the hidden gift of solitude. It strips away everything false so that what is real, your peace, your creativity, your inner wisdom can finally emerge. What if, instead of fearing solitude, you chose to embrace it as your greatest teacher? This is the path the philosophers walked, not out of necessity, but as an act of self-respect and clarity. In solitude, you are free from performance, free from the expectations of others, free to listen deeply to the song of your own soul. Here, you can become your truest self, rooted in a peace that doesn't depend on anyone's approval or presence. Imagine what your life might look like if you viewed solitude as a gift instead of a sentence. You could use quiet moments to explore your creativity, to journal, to dream, to meditate, to reconnect with nature, or simply breathe deeply and notice the world around you. In these moments, you'll discover what truly matters to you, your desires, your values, the kind of relationships and experiences that nourish your spirit. This is the raw material of authenticity, that the world might never celebrate your choice to step away from the noise. But history's greatest minds, Buddha, meditating beneath a tree, Thoreau writing by the pond, Virginia Woolf, walking alone by the sea, understood that solitude is where the seeds of insight are planted. These thinkers weren't running from life. They were running toward a deeper, more meaningful version of it. Let solitude be the place where you remember your wholeness. If loneliness is a hunger for others, solitude is a feast you share with yourself. When you stop fearing your own company, you find that you are, in fact, never truly alone. Your thoughts, your memories, your aspirations become companions. Your inner world comes alive in ways you never expected. It takes courage to say no to the constant call for connection, to risk misunderstanding or criticism. But authenticity has always required courage. The reward is that your connections with others become richer too. When you are rooted in your own presence, you bring your full self into relationships, not just a mask, not just an echo of what others want to see. Real intimacy is only possible between whole people. Paradoxically, the more at peace you are alone, the more deeply you can love and be loved when the right people come along. So choose solitude, not as an escape, but as a practice of self-honor. Let yourself become comfortable with silence, with unhurried mornings, with time spent simply being. This is not withdrawal from the world. It is preparation for a more meaningful return to it. When you meet yourself in solitude, you gather strength for every room you will later enter. You cultivate a wisdom and an inner light that no crowd can offer and no absence can take away. And in this empowered place, you become not just a person who can withstand being alone, but someone who thrives there, who leads by example, and who quietly inspires others to do the same. So what does it all add up to? Solitude, often feared and misunderstood, is not your enemy. It is your invitation to inner freedom. In a world addicted to noise and novelty, to constant scrolling and shallow connection, the courage to be alone is more revolutionary than ever. If you have ever felt uneasy in silence, or worried that enjoying your own company is somehow selfish, know this: solitude is not a sign of brokenness, but a marker of wholeness. Reflect for a moment on what you've learned from time spent alone. Maybe you've discovered hidden strengths, a forgotten passion, or simply a sense of peace that no achievement or relationship could give you. Maybe solitude has helped you listen to your intuition, solve problems with more creativity, or find the strength to walk away from situations that no longer serve you. Each of these discoveries is a piece of the deep wisdom that only solitude can offer. You are not alone in your search for inner peace. Great philosophers and artists, spiritual leaders, and everyday visionaries have all found their truest selves in moments of quiet. They learned, as you can too, that the only way to truly connect with others is to first connect deeply with yourself. Solitude is the space where you gather the raw material of a meaningful life: insight, clarity, acceptance, and the strength to be authentic no matter what the world demands. If you want to live more fully, begin by honoring your need for solitude. Start with small acts. Take a walk without your phone. Sit in silence and notice your breath. Journal without worrying what anyone else might think. Create moments in your day that belong only to you. As you get more comfortable with this, allow those moments to grow. Let your solitude become a steady source of clarity and renewal. And as you do, don't be afraid to share what you learn. Tell your story. Remind others that it's okay to need space, that there is wisdom in turning inward, and that solitude can be the wellspring of deep, real connection. In a world hungry for authenticity, your journey might be exactly the example someone else needs. So, here's your call to action. Try spending intentional time alone this week. Let it be an experiment, not a punishment. Notice the thoughts and feelings that arise. Trust that the path to inner peace begins within, and that every moment you spend getting to know yourself is a step toward a richer, more grounded life. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's a gift, an open doorway to the deepest kind of peace. Step through and you may just discover that you are already enough, exactly as you are.